Welcome to A Healthy Bite. You're one nibble closer to a more satisfying way of life, a healthier you, and bite-sized bits of healthy motivation. Now let's dig in on the dish with Rebecca Huff.
Hey, it's Rebecca here with A Healthy Bite. Today we are talking to Kelli Foster, Associate Food Editor at The Kitchn. That's thekitchen.com. Kelli is a graduate of the French Culinary Institute, and she is the author of 3 cookbooks. One we will be discussing today, and that is the Probiotic Kitchen. Kelli has also authored 2 other cookbooks, and I will let Kelli tell us just briefly about those and a little bit about herself. But first, Kelli, can you tell us just a little bit about yourself and the other 2 cookbooks that you've written?
Sure. So my name is Kelli Foster. I am super lucky that for my job, which is basically my dream job, it is all about food and cooking and writing about these things. So I am an editor and recipe developer for the home cooking site, The Kitchn, as well as cookbook author. So my most recent cookbook is Probiotic Kitchen, and I've previously published another cookbook last year called Bootables, which is basically 100 one-bowl meals that are just super healthy and super nourishing. And prior to that, several years ago, I wrote an e-cookbook that is centered all about freekeh, which is a whole grain.
Wow. The whole book about it.
It's a short, so it's an e-cookbook.
Okay.
So it's super short, but all about freekeh. So breakfast, lunch, dinner, dessert.
I'm willing to guess not a lot of people have heard of freekeh.
It's become more popular, but no, it's not. I mean, compared to some other whole grains like say quinoa or farro or bulgur, which are much more popular, it is not quite as widely known.
Right. I have a tabbouleh recipe with sorghum, and people think that's weird. So
No,
I'm
but,
sure.
But really, anything you could make with another whole grain, say for example tabbouleh, you can substitute in freekeh.
That's really cool. Well, I actually checked out your other book, The Bootables, from the library a while back, and I liked it so much that I ended up buying it for my cookbook collection. So whenever I heard of this book, the Probiotic Kitchen, I was like, "Ooh, yes, I definitely want to check that out."
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I actually wrote a blog post on my site a while back about how bowls were trending. Bootables was a big deal. And so like I have a whole Pinterest board. I'm sure lots of your recipes are on there. So yeah, I was reading your cookbook before I received this email from your publicist about your new cookbook. So that was kind of exciting.
Oh, yeah, that's really exciting. That
Yeah.
makes me really excited.
Yeah. So let's get into talking about probiotics. What are they and what do they do for us?
Yeah. So basically, probiotics are they're living organisms. They are the good bacteria that live in our gut. They can do a whole host of things for us, and there's been a lot of research that's been done on them. It's still, I think, super early days on that, and there's a lot, that still needs to be done, and there's a lot of contradicting information out there about what probiotics can and cannot do for us. But at the end of the day, the one thing that they are really great for is our digestive health. They keep the bacteria, the good bacteria, in check in our guts, and they help our digestive system to move along and stay regular. Potentially they can keep some illnesses at bay. But at the end of the day, they make us feel really good.
Right. Keep our gut healthy. I want to talk more about what types of foods are rich in probiotics. But before we go there, I also wanted you to explain to us about prebiotics, which I think a lot of people, maybe even most people, have heard of probiotics, but not so many people have heard about prebiotics.
Sure, I think that's a totally fair statement. That not a lot of people have heard of prebiotics, or sometimes they hear about it and think, "Oh, wait, did you actually mean probiotics?" But no, it's totally separate, and the two really go hand in hand. So prebiotics are essentially the food that probiotics need to work and to flourish and to really do their job. So they can't do that on their own. and they need, like all other living organisms, probiotics have to eat. And prebiotics are the sources that really do that for them.
Wow. So it's like food for your probiotics. I always kind of
Basically.
thought of it as like maybe fertilizer for the probiotics, but I guess that's not exactly accurate.
Oh no, I think that analogy also works for it, but it's something that it's helping them flourish in your gut. I thought,
Okay.
the prebiotics are helping the probiotics to flourish in there, and certainly fertilizer is something that does that.
Okay. Okay. Good. Well, can you give us some examples of what foods contain prebiotics or what are prebiotics?
Yeah, so that's it. So similar, similar to probiotics, there are supplements out there. Personally, if I can get nourishment and nutrition from natural sources, that is just my go-to. And so prebiotics fall into that category. And they're in a lot of foods that people are eating. They probably have no idea. So some good sources are avocado, bananas, like onions and garlic and scallions, and basically a lot of those foods that fall into the allium family. There are a lot of whole grains that fall into this category, and whole wheat, flaxseed, barley, um, a whole host of
Asparagus,
foods.
right? An
And
artichoke.
raw asparagus, yeah, and
Mhm.
artichoke.
Yeah,
That's right.
those are some of my favorite prebiotic foods. So we want to eat these foods in combination, obviously, right?
We do. We want to make sure we're getting both of these on our system to really get the benefits. And if you can eat them on the same plate at the same time, that's like a two-in-one deal, right? And that's the easiest way to do it. And it's a big win.
Good. Okay, so what are some probiotic foods? Where do we find them?
Yeah. So, and I think this is the easiest way to get a fill of probiotics because they are naturally found in a lot of foods. So, some of the more common examples where you're going to find them is all sorts of live culture yogurt. And, a lot of the yogurt that's out there does fall in this category. And so it's yogurts, skyr, milk kefir, kombucha, all sorts of fermented sauerkrauts and kimchi and pickles. You'll find probiotics in miso paste and tempeh, and even some aged cheeses. So there's a
Wow.
lot of foods out there where you can find them.
Yeah, and I was reading in the introduction of your book that they're finding more places where they're discovering probiotics.
Like I said, a lot of them where we're used to finding them, like the yogurts and the
Right.
skyrs. But now we have other products, say like cultured cottage cheese, for example. So
Yeah.
it's like the traditional cottage cheese that you've been eating, but it's made with live and active cultures. So we're getting a little bit of gut benefit out of there with a product that tastes just the same as the non-cultured variety that a lot of people are used to.
Or maybe even better.
I think it's better. I started buying that, so
Yeah.
I think it's delicious.
I yeah, I actually tried some cultured cottage cheese the other day and I thought it tasted a little better. Maybe it was just in my head, but I was like, this is actually better than what I normally buy. Um, so can you tell me, is there a difference between cultured and fermented? Because sometimes I hear those words and then sometimes I think I'm hearing them interchangeably, but are they?
They can be used interchangeably, and they're often used interchangeably. Yes, so
Okay,
that's
so
right.
cultured, if someone says a cultured vegetable, it's basically the same as saying a fermented vegetable.
Yep. Yes, that's right.
Okay. And just like sticking to the basics, for example, I typically buy cultured pickles. That's not the same as just your standard pickles on the shelf. Can you explain to us the difference and how these two things are kind of different animals, so to speak?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And it's, one product that maybe looks the same and tastes similar but different, but does offer a lot of different things. Um, and sauerkraut can also fall into this category with pickles, but certainly more so pickles that you have the fermented or cultured pickles that you're going to find in the refrigerated section. And then you have the shelf stable pickles, that you'll find sort of in those center aisles of the grocery store. Anything that is fermented or cultured and again has the live organisms in there, it needs to be refrigerated. So you're never going to find a fermented product say that's not refrigerated. And there are certainly other varieties of pickles that are found in that refrigerated section, but are not fermented or cultured. And the giveaway that would tell you for sure that this product does contain probiotics is you would, somewhere on the label, it would say contains live cultures or contains live and active cultures. And that's always your giveaway and the telltale sign that there's probiotics to be had in that product.
Okay. So look for live cultures.
Yeah, that's always your giveaway. And that's for any product, so that could be pickles, but that could also be yogurt or cottage cheese, or any other kind of kraut.
Okay. So we're talking about foods in the store. So like if we were in the supermarket, we can find sauerkraut and yogurt and kimchi and these types of things. And some pickles are cultured. But your cookbook is all about probiotics in your kitchen. So how hard is it? Can someone with minimal kitchen experience make their own cultured foods?
You can. A lot of people don't want to do that. It's a DIY project. It can feel very intimidating if you've never done it before. If you're a new cook, that can feel extremely intimidating. Even if you're a seasoned cook, that can still feel intimidating. The instructions can be pretty long, and it takes some time, and it's there can be gray area, and you're wondering if I'm getting this right or not getting this right. It's not for everyone. And that was a big impetus for the book is people want to eat more probiotic foods, but how do you do that if you're not making them? And the easy way to do that is by starting at your grocery store, where you can find a lot of these products that naturally have probiotics.
Right. That's where I find mine. And I'm going to be honest, I really have always wanted to make the fermented salsa. And I was glad that you have a recipe in your book. I haven't tried it yet, but by the time this comes out, hopefully I'll have had a chance to try the fermented salsa because I've actually tasted it and I think it has a better flavor. I like almost the fizziness or tartness to it. But I do tend to like more tart flavors than sweet flavors. So I am going to experiment with that and hopefully I'll be able to put my results in the blog post. So if if people are listening to this, maybe they can go check out the blog post and see if I succeeded in that.
Yeah, and so I know while the book does center on a lot of these store-bought naturally probiotic rich foods, there are several recipes in the beginning for anyone that wants to try their hand at making these at home. And I think some easy ways to do that if you want to get started is, like you said, fermented salsa, which is pretty easy, and sauerkraut and several different other krauts and a very basic kimchi. So if you did want to get started trying your hand at making your own fermented vegetables, there are some easy ways to do it.
Well, I'm glad I chose the right recipe. My mom used to make her own cultured pickles and sauerkraut and things like that. And I never really thought about it. That was just something that she did that I didn't learn from her. And I really never have tried. Like you said, I've always been a little intimidated by it. So it's kind of a new area for me. I eat tons of probiotic foods. I love kimchi and sauerkraut. Bubby's sauerkraut's my favorite.
That is a great one.
I actually drink the liquid as well.
But that's great. So you're getting even more out of it, and that's usable. There is a lot of great stuff in there.
Well, the way I decided to try drinking it was at one point my daughter was not feeling well. She just kept having an upset stomach. And we saw at one of the health food stores something called a gut shot. And when I looked at it, it was basically just probiotics. And then when I tasted it, I thought, this tastes just like the juice from sauerkraut. So I decided to start drinking it.
Yeah, that's really smart.
Well, hey, it's better than throwing it out, right? So I love that your cookbook's helping us to incorporate more of these probiotic rich meals into our diet. And do you have any other tips, like for example, like something that makes it really easy. I think your recipes are fairly easy for beginners. I mean, it's like you're adding these probiotic foods to the recipe. So it's not like everything requires us to experiment with fermenting ourselves. Well, what are some just really fast, easy ways someone can get more probiotics into their lives?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And that's really part of my goal with the book is giving people very low lift, easy ways to incorporate some of these foods into their day. So they're not having to spend tons of time in the kitchen and buy a ton of ingredients and get a lot of dirty dishes in the sink. But really things that they can do again and again to incorporate into their everyday lives. So some easy things, I think, say smoothies are a great place to start because there's ways that you can work yogurt in there. So in the book, there's a bunch of smoothie recipes. Some of them contain yogurt. Some take out whether it's some of the liquid in the smoothie and incorporate some milk kefir instead. Some use the cultured cottage cheese. And I would say for any of those recipes, they're all can be used interchangeably. So if cottage cheese isn't really up your alley, maybe you swap yogurt in instead or use milk kefir, but there's always a way to work those products in. Even if you have a recipe you love that doesn't call for one of those three, add it anyway. There's always a place for it. I think another smart place is really making smart swaps. So maybe if you're making a sauce or a dressing, if you want to make that creamier, maybe you stir in some milk kefir or some yogurt to that. Maybe you mix in some miso paste into your dressing. Another place it's great is in certain kinds of salads, like chicken salad or potato salad or egg salad, where maybe you swap the mayonnaise for either some yogurt or a little bit of milk kefir. There's a recipe in the book for a kimchi chicken salad. So maybe you take that plain chicken salad and you punch that up a little bit with some kimchi. So there's some spice in there and some funky, tangy flavors in there.
Yes, that sounds good. I actually did try your deviled eggs that has the sauerkraut liquid or something in there. Yeah, I liked that too because, well, I already said that I like the sauerkraut juice, so I was like, hey, this is good. So I wanted to ask you about sourdough bread. I know that it is considered a fermented food, right?
It is considered a fermented food, but it's sort of touchy because then it's also cooked. So you have that starter that's a fermented food, but when the bread is baked, you have heat that sort of, living things don't love high heat.
Right.
Probiotics obviously fall into that category.
That was my question is how do we know? Do any of the probiotics survive in sourdough bread?
It's hard to say. And I think that's something that people are still kind of talking about. But on the whole, like I said, the starter is where you're going to find a lot of those probiotics. So I think when it comes to bread, a really great choice is choosing a whole grain bread or a multi-grain bread, because with that, you're getting some prebiotics in there.
Okay. Yeah, I had noticed on your, you had a smashed chickpea salad sandwich.
Yeah.
That I had put on my list of things to try. And I noticed that the bread was, I think, sprouted whole grain bread. Do you have any particular recipes in there that are your favorites? Like, tell us a little bit, like what's on your plate?
Gosh, that's a hard question. I know you'd probably ask that question. So I flipped through the book several times last night and again today. It is such a hard question.
Because everything looks good in that book.
I like get to one recipe and I'm like, this is it. This is my favorite. And then I get a few more pages in and I'm like, oh wait, it's this one. So I'm going to give you several favorites.
Okay.
I can't pick one. I would say one for sure is the probiotic breakfast bowl. And it's simply because this is what my breakfast looks like so many days. And it's what I'm eating all the time. It's also super versatile. So I think in the book, I call for a red cabbage kraut. Any kind of kraut works here. Kimchi works here. Fermented vegetables, anything that you have can be substituted in there, but you're getting probiotics from that kraut. You're getting it from some yogurt. You're getting some prebiotics from avocado. You can put some scallion in there. So you're getting the whole package in there, which I love. Another favorite that I make all the time are the cold kimchi soba noodles, which uses, I think, some kimchi brine in there, and it uses the chopped kimchi, and it is just super easy. It's super delicious. You can make it ahead, which I love. So I make a big batch and have it for lunch for a couple days.
That sounds amazing.
Thank you. That is a favorite, and that's the image you would see on the cover of the book. Another favorite, probably, I love all of these smoothie recipes in there, and those are ones that I just make all the time.
So you probably are a very healthy person because, I mean, gut health is the basis of health, basically, right?
It is, and I think a lot of the book, as much as it's about probiotics, it's also about healthy eating and making smart choices, and that's also sort of what the book is ushering in, is making these healthy choices. And like I said, one of the ways to work more probiotics in is making some of these smart swaps by maybe swapping out one ingredient and swapping in one that has probiotics. And you, not always, but most of the time, that ends up also being a healthier choice.
I love that. And I think you make it very doable in the book. So I appreciated that. And as I was, looking at the pictures, I was like, I want to make this and I want to make this. It all looks good. I do love fermented food, and especially, kimchi and sauerkraut are two of my favorites. But I did like that you mentioned the heat, because I've been on a website from time to time. You know how you're browsing Pinterest and you'll come across a recipe, and I found one that I really wanted to try. This has been over a year ago, and they had kimchi in the soup, and they were like boiling the soup with the kimchi in it, and I was like, And so I just put a comment, you might want to like maybe put the kimchi in after you remove it from the heat, and so they actually changed the recipe.
Oh, that's great.
Do the kimchi later so that they're not losing all of the benefits by boiling it.
Yeah,
Right.
there's some recipes, like, say, for example, in here I have a kimchi fried rice, and I'll add some of the kimchi earlier when it's cooking, because that helps to bring some flavor into there, but the bulk of that gets added after the whole pan is taken off the heat, and give it a minute to kind of settle down, and then add the kimchi. At the end. That way you're preserving as many of those probiotics as possible. And that holds for any warm foods you're making, whether it's a soup or a pasta, anything warm.
Right. Well, I just thought that was great that you did, include some of the, stuff to the side. That way, we are still getting the benefits of the probiotics. So, and if you're eating a lot of it, maybe it doesn't matter quite as much if, some of it is cooked, if you're incorporating lots of these recipes into your diet throughout the day. Right. So
yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think that's true.
And I think you even said somewhere in the book that it is more like, it's not a quick fix. Oh, you're going to take a probiotic and then suddenly everything's going to be better.
No, it's not. And I don't think for anything, there's no quick fix for anything. And the book isn't about being a quick fix, but it's really about adapting these foods and adapting probiotics into your lifestyle. So if you're looking to get a ton of probiotics into your body, like, you're not going to really get that from food. You're going to get more from a supplement, but that's not my goal. And the goal is to work these into a diet that's very sustainable for everyday eating.
I think that's a very good point. But I mean, I think that the cumulative effect of eating a little bit, throughout the day, every day, it adds up.
It certainly does. It certainly does. And that's the goal here, is it's creating a habit, right? And that's also why I want it to be so easy, because that makes it easier to form this habit and to do these things every day.
Right. And when it's doable, then we actually do it. So.
And we stick with it. Yeah, that's the point of making it low lift, right? Any kind of habit we're trying to form, the easier it is and the smaller the task, the more doable it is for us.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Kelli. Where can people find you?
So you can find me on the Kitchn, and that is Kitchen with no E, Kitchn. You can find me on Instagram at Kelli M. Foster. And of course, you can find my books on Amazon.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me, Rebecca. I love chatting with you.
Thanks for listening. Please rate and review so other people can learn about this podcast. Find out more about sleep, hygiene, eating healthy, tasty recipes, zero-waste lifestyle, and lots more on ThatOrganicMom.com. Help us spread the word. Be blessed and stay healthy.